He is a broadcasting legend for NBC Sports and MLB. The legend himself, Bob Costas, is over here. Bob Costas. Try to follow that.
Yeah, what comes next? Adorable kids and animal acts? I'm supposed to follow that?
All right, now,
Yeah.
okay, brain damage in the NFL.
Yeah.
No, I
Another upbeat topic.
I wanted to make it even harder for you by going.
But that is the topic, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's so funny because whenever you're here, I always say, you know, Bob's here, and we're going to talk about sports issues because there are these big sports issues, but he is so much more than just sports. And then I look at the issues and I'm going, yeah, but sports somehow gets to all the big issues that really are bubbling up in our society.
It often intersects, despite the mouth breathers who say, leave it all out of sports. I just tuned in to hear there's a ground ball to shortstop. Fine. Okay.
Wow. Don't call the mouth breathers, Bob. They're your bread and butter.
I've been told. I've made that mistake before.
But, I mean, look, we could start anywhere. The big news that was all in the papers yesterday was Aaron Hernandez, who was a great tight end for the New England Patriots, except for the fact that he murdered people.
And then he killed himself in jail.
And then went to jail for it, and that didn't end well. But what they found out yesterday was that the CTE, which is, let's not even try to say what it is, but it's the brain damage you get from
chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
See, he knows things like that.
It means your brain's scrambled.
It's scrambled, and this kid had problems anyway. But they said for a 27-year-old, they never saw it that bad.
Yeah, it was stage 3, and 4 is the worst.
At 27?
At 27. And we know that even before dementia sets in, that brain trauma, even for active players, can have an effect on impulse control, anger, that sort of thing. But you can't make the leap to connect what he did directly to that because he's just one person. But this is more bad news and an accumulation of bad news for the NFL and for football in general. And this comes from somebody who recognizes the drama, the excitement, the teamwork, the strategy. That's all very interesting and appealing. And it remains the most, not just the most popular sport, it's the most popular thing in all of American entertainment. And it's difficult for people to give up that attachment and the generational connections, but evidence is evidence. You can't turn your back on it.
You know what? And as a libertarian, I've spoken out and said, and I'm kind of torn about it, and said, look, these are young people. When I was a young person, try to take the joint out of my hand. Back when it was illegal, kids.
And now NFL players want to use marijuana to salve the pain.
And it works.
Yeah.
So we have a solution. All right. So, but you know, it's hard to tell somebody because when you watch the NFL on TV, when they're not writhing on the ground in pain, they're having a great time. They're celebrating, they're fun, they're young, they're out doing their thing. And to tell somebody you can't do that, we're going to take away your living, but even though it's different if they didn't know it was harmful for them. We're kind of in cigarette territory.
Which was the case in the 60s and 70s when players may have thought, look, I might have trouble getting out of bed because my knees or my hips will be bothering me when I'm 50, but they didn't think they wouldn't know what day it was. Now you do have informed consent. Pretty much any football player who doesn't know what he's getting into hasn't been paying attention. But there's also evidence that the earlier you start playing Pee-wee football, and participation is way down because parents are concerned about it. If you start playing when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, then the long-range effects are apt to be even greater. So the idea probably will evolve that they should play flag football, learn the game's fundamentals, and then when you get to an age of consent, get to be 18 or something, then if you want to play tackle football, play tackle football.
I mean, the commissioner is starting to sound like the mayor in Jaws, you know. There's no shark, and you know, if we close the beaches now, we're going to lose a lot of money. But it's going to have to change at some point because I'm telling you, even as a libertarian, I was watching the game the other night, and you know, a guy is just crunched, and you can see him in pain, and the guys in the booth are like, "All right, let's go to the commercial as quickly as we can. Then we're going to clean up the body parts after this word from Del Monte." And you know, they just kind of gloss over it. But even I, the libertarian, I'm going, going, oh, God, I'm feeling a little like I need a shower after watching the game. Answer me this. Let me get to the bottom line. Where is it going to be in 10 years? What is the NFL going to look like in 10 years?
Well,
it's hard to believe it's going to be the same.
They've changed the rules, which is only fiddling at the edges because the game is fundamentally brutal and violent, but they have changed some of the rules. They're trying to change the culture. They're trying to change youth football. They say they're funding research, but unless they come up with some as yet unimagined technology that improves helmets to the point where it doesn't just protect against a skull fracture, but it protects the brain from rattling around inside the skull like a pickle inside a jar, which is really what happens. If somehow they can come up with some technology that disperses the impact, unless that happens, basically you're just going to have to sign a willing assumption of risk clause to your contract, and it may become like the Roman, circuses, where people watch it, but they don't let their kids play it.
Well, it already is a little like that. And it's also, I'm watching the documentary on Vietnam, the Ken Burns thing now. It's a little like that, where, oh, thank you, the Vietnam vets are here. Yeah, it's terrific. But it's a little like that.
There's a draft involved in both cases.
It's a draft. And who goes? The people who are more desperate.
Yeah, where the risk is justified by the reward.
Yeah, but I mean, who went to Vietnam? The poor kids, minorities, and that's what football is.
On the other hand, Tom Brady wants to keep playing if he can until he's 45 or 50. You watch Aaron Rodgers play, there's something exhilarating about that. You can't deny not just the skill, but there are times when the athleticism is almost poetic. You recognize all those things. I wish there was a button I could push that would make the game rough, yes, tough, yes, but not life-threatening and brain-threatening, and then you can still enjoy it. But those two things cannot be separated.
Let me quickly ask you, because I can hear Martin's getting very antsy, but not. But when the camera's not on him for 5 minutes, I feel it's like he's sort of kicking me under the table.
I'm here too.
Yeah. But Colin Kaepernick. I mean, again, an issue, race that in sports.
Right.
Maybe this is the place where we should play this out. Now, I think a guy should be able to not stand for the national anthem.
Even people who disagree with him recognize that you'd be crazy to deny the right of expression that the people they rightly revere for having put their lives on the line to protect it and ensure it, that why would you deprive someone of that right, even if you disagree with them?
Right. No, I understand Trump said something today at his rally.
He said something to the effect of, I'd like to see some NFL owners say when someone does that, kneels or whatever, just get the son of a bitch off the field. But in effect,
he never disappoints, does he?
He really doesn't. Exactly. He is consistently awful.
Grotesque to the end.
Yeah. Now, you do have a lot of players who are presently under contract and players that their teams think are good enough to really help them that are engaging in that kind of protest. Right. But in effect, the owners collectively have told Colin Kaepernick to get the hell off the field because he doesn't have a team. Now, is he Tom Brady or Cam Newton? No, he's not. But is he better than some starters in the league and better than many backups in the league? Of course he is.
It's definitely because of that. I wonder why more aren't doing what he did. I'm always surprised when I see on the sideline it's only a few.
I think the possible reason is that they recognize that there's some complexity in this, that the anthem doesn't just represent the nation's flaws, or it doesn't just represent the military or the police, as admirable as most policemen are, even given the rogue cops, and as admirable as the sacrifice of the military is, but that it represents the nation's ideals as well. That's what makes this a little bit complicated. If I owned a team, which I don't, but if I owned a team, I would have the PA guy say, please stand for our national anthem and in recognition of the ideals it represents. That would then encompass conservative, liberal, and everyone in between, and I think it would make it more palatable.